What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to talk about some big news that came out for the markets, what's going on with Tesla stock, and what you should be watching for in terms of my price predictions for tomorrow. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon in under 2 weeks, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. So, looking at Tesla, we got this very, very nice downtrend over the last couple of days. And what happened was Tesla got a nice rebound on Friday. We dumped really hard Friday morning only to get a nice bounce up because of some bullish news that came out. We came very close to my target near this 50 EMA to get that bounce as well. So, this is what we were predicting. Now the question remains what's going to happen from this point on. So I'm going to talk more about that in just a couple of minutes. The main thing is we're at this 319.5 area, our 20 EMA. We'll have to see if Tesla holds above this or not. If we do, this will continue to push. And if we can't hold this on a 4-hour basis, we will be dipping again. Tesla's very news dependent, so it could be tricky to predict. But in this case, we're doing a good job at holding up. So the odds do favor this trying to push a little bit more. So I'll talk more about that once again in a couple of minutes. I first want to talk about some very important data. Just know that tomorrow is going to be Monday, November 18th. There's not really much data coming out for Tesla and the broader markets. In fact, there's not really much data coming out for the entire week until Thursday and Friday, so just keep that in mind. We just have a couple of Fed speakers in the morning, then we have a couple of bill auctions at 11:30 a.m., and that's pretty much it. Besides that, there's not really much coming out for Tuesday and Wednesday, but then don't forget Thursdays when we have some jobs numbers. They're going to be very important, especially from the Philly Fed. And then Fridays when we have the PMI report, which is going to be a lot more significant for the markets. So just keep that in mind. I also want to mention that as far as our data goes, there's not really much coming out for Monday in terms of earnings. But for Tuesday, we have Walmart, Lowe's, and Xbong. And then for Wednesday, we have Neo, Target, and TJ Maxx in the morning, lots of retail. And then we have Nvda announcing earnings after market close on Wednesday. So this is going to cause a lot of volatility, especially for Tesla. Make sure you guys remember that and keep that in mind. Something worth mentioning about the markets is that we're still at neutral right now. We're not even at fear yet, so that does signify the possibility of more downside later on. However, for the more immediate term, there might be a small rebound attempt that's coming because of what I'm seeing, at least developing on the VIX and these other charts, which I'll talk about in just a few minutes. The market was very greedy. There was so much greed. You guys saw how Tesla was pumping, SPY was pumping. The market was on fire just a couple of days ago. And then we started to slow down, and the market's been slowing, especially after Jerome Powell's speech. We got this big slowdown. The question now remains, will it continue? Well, as of right now, it does look to me like we're going to rebound a bit, but then we'll see what happens after that. Um, for our overall momentum indicator, we're still at neutral. So the market did pump very, very hard. It's at neutral, which signifies that we're not extremely bearish. We're not at fear yet. We're still neutral despite how much downside we saw over the last couple of days. Look at the put and call option ratio for the market. The 5-day average is starting to go up. This signifies there's a lot more put buying. So people are buying shorts. They're predicting the market's going to dip, this and that. That's why the market is seeing this shift right now. And then besides that, the VIX has dumped quite a bit, but it's at support. So we'll have to see if the VIX gets a bounce. With that being said, that's it for my fear and greed index. Now let's talk about some news about Tesla. I didn't see much news come out over the weekend, guys. I mean, we saw Elon, and he was with the soon-to-be president, not to mention many other figures that were part of the team, which is pretty awesome. We saw them all together, and then they were at the UFC event. I don't want to get too political about anything, which is why I'm trying to limit what I say. I'm just trying to say that's the last thing I really saw about Elon Musk. I didn't see anything else. I really didn't see too much that was too significant. He did tweet a couple of things, but once again, guys, nothing was too crazy from Musk's end. And then as far as Tesla news goes, I just didn't see anything that was too crazy this weekend. Hopefully tomorrow morning we see some more news. For now, just know that Tesla announced a 500 kilowatt charging with its new supercharger cabinets. These are going to be a lot more effective, a lot more efficient, and they're going to be providing faster charging for the Cybertruck and the other models, not to mention faster deployments, and then new hardware, which is going to be much more efficient and much more power dense. So that's going to be capable of charging more with less costs. So that's going to be very, very efficient, very awesome stuff. This was bullish news that came out, not to mention Ron Barron. I went over some of his claims in my video from yesterday about how he sees Tesla going to about $5 trillion in market cap within 10 years or even higher than that. He was talking about Elon Musk seeing a $30 trillion valuation, and he said a lot of things about Musk being very, very intelligent and doing a great job. And he spoke a lot about many different factors. But I just wanted to call him out. That's a very, very bullish catalyst, at least for Tesla, as he is a long term investor and he's very legendary for calling out Tesla many years ago, for being a big winner, and other factors like that. So, great job by Ron Barron. He did a great interview, and I can't wait to see what else that leads to. For other pieces of news, RBC Capital is giving Tesla an outperform rating. Jeffries is saying hold on to your shares, and Wedbush is saying Tesla will outperform. The price price ratio dipped quite a bit now. It's trying to get bought back up as Tesla's gaining some strength again. For Mondays, we do tend to be green about 53% of the time. It's one of the most green days of the week historically. And we tend to see more volatility at 11 o'clock a.m. and then 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Besides that, I just didn't see anything else that was too crazy on the news. Our volume is at 114 million. It's still above average, which is a good piece of news. With that being said, what do we see for the share price of Tesla? Let's talk about technicals now and nothing else. So it's very simple, guys. If Tesla loses 319.5, that does not hold for Tesla, and we start dipping lower, there is a risk of us coming down to this imbalance towards 312. And if that fails us, we could revisit the lows all over again. As long as we're above 319, though, I think there's a good chance we try to push back up to this resistance at 323. And if that breaks, we start pushing for 328 to 330. So those are going to be your levels to watch for. I think that Tesla dumped quite a bit now, is trying to rebound, so we'll have to see how it goes. As long as we're above 319, I think the odds are favoring upside a little bit more for the 323 than 328 area. Looking at the current trend, I just want to say that Tesla is very news dependent, which makes it a little bit more unique than the markets. The market is not as news dependent as Tesla because every day a new piece of news could come out, and sometimes unexpected things could happen. So in this case, as long as there's no bad news tomorrow, I think the odds are favoring upside. I think Tesla will most likely try to push for the mid 320s and 328 for a small push after what Ron Barron has said. So long as there's no bad news tomorrow, I favor upside a little bit more for Tesla and the markets. So just keep that in mind. As far as SPY goes, I just want to call out SPY real quick. SPY is doing a very, very good job at holding up, at least thus far. Just know that we held this key support here. So we have this resistance, which is now support at 585. This is not only a key fib level, but it's also very, very close to this previous resistance becoming supports. As long as we don't lose 585, we turn bullish. If 585 fails, let's look at 583, then 580 is our targets. If 585 holds, we're going to try to push back up for resistance at 588 to 589. And if that breaks, we're going to be pushing back up to this imbalance, taking us closer to about 592, which is where the gap fill happens to be. I think there's a good chance that SPY holds its support, so the odds are favoring upside a little bit more, and SPY will most likely push for 588 to 590. Now, just because we try to push up hard does not mean I'm a perma bull. It might just be a small rebound before it starts to continue to go lower. That's always a possibility. We're not worried about the bigger move. We're just going to focus on the move for tomorrow, which is going to be an attempt to rebound. That's the most likely possibility. When it comes to SPY, just know this. When we sold off back in like July, check this out, guys. We did not just crash and not get any sort of bounce. It was like this. So SPY did this. We essentially dipped. What was that? Like 15 points or so. Then we rebounded. Then we dipped, rebounded, dipped pretty hard. And this is when we had some very significant news before we attempted to rebound, right? Same thing happened right over here. We get these like small dips, rebound a little bit, then we dip lower before we start to rebound. And then this trend has been going on for quite some time. So that makes me think that in this case, SPY is not just going to crash and crash and crash and crash and crash. It's going to try to rebound a little bit, make an attempt to get back up to these EMAs, and possibly it could be dipping lower again. In order for us to dip lower, we have to lose 585, which is a very, very strong support. So I think that SPY is not going to do that. I think that we push higher for 588 to 590 for a little bit of a push to start things off. And then we could get a rejection after that if that ends up being the case. So just keep that in mind, guys. That's what I'm presuming is the most likely possibility. For ES, we've dipped quite a bit. We have this main support at 58.67, and we have this resistance to watch for at 59.25, not to mention 59.50. I think we could be dipping closer to about 58.67 or so, and maybe a little bit above that. And then this could try to bounce again. So it's going to try to base very close to where we are. And there's going to be a bounce attempt about 59.25 is the most likely possibility. So look for this to base in the 58.80 to 58.67 area, and then we should try to rebound for 59.25 to 59.50. As long as we don't lose 58.67, I favor a bounce on ES, a small one. If we do lose the support, we will be dipping to this imbalance down here, but I don't think that's very likely. I think the odds do favor this attempting to rebound first, as long as there's no bad news. For Nvidia, what else is going to fuel the market trying to bounce? Maybe in Nvidia approaching its earnings as we get very, very close to earnings. We could try to push higher for that 143.8 to 145.36 area. So I think this is going to most likely attempt to push a little bit, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. Yes, Nvidia could downtrend lower as we have these gaps to fill, but there's no sign that we're going to just dump and dump and dump and dump. We might attempt to rebound first as long as we don't lose 142.5. So I think what's going to happen is we hold 142 and start pushing higher for 143.8 then 145 into this range up here. And then we'll see if we get a rejection or not. But look for a little bit more upside to hit this resistance, and we'll see how it goes from there. Keep that in mind. For Bitcoin, we have this main support at 88,000. We have resistance at 92,000. We're just going back and forth and back and forth. Look for a small dip here to this imbalance, taking us to the 88,000 area before it tries to bounce again. But most likely, I see a lot of sideways price action for the time being. For NQ is doing the same thing. It has to try to get back above 20,525 to bounce. Otherwise, this is at risk of dipping lower. Not looking as strong as SPY or ES, but I think that there's a very, very good chance that NQ does attempt to push to about the 20,600 area before it tries to, dip lower. It's still kind of weak though, so we'll have to see if we get back above that resistance or not. For the QQQ, so we held 495 very nicely. This is also previous resistance becoming support. As long as we hold 495, I think the odds favor us trying to retest 500. Might be a small rebound to about 500 before it continues lower and starts to reject again. That's the most likely case. Look for a small rebound, and then we'll see what happens after that. For Apple, it could also try to rebound a bit because I called out this trend line right over here. We're holding this support down here. So that signifies that this may continue to push for this 226 area. 226 is likely going to be coming very soon. If that breaks, I think we fill the gap up to about 227.5 for a small rebound on Apple before anything else. Another reason why I say this, I'm going to actually skip over to the VIX and I'll talk about the other tickers like Apple and the others in more detail. But just know that for my VIX chart down here, I want to call out the fact that the VIX is at some tough resistance right now. The VIX is trying to push to fill this gap, but here's the thing. We're not ready to do that yet, and there's no guarantee we do it quite yet. It may take longer. We're hitting our 50 EMA at 16.55. If we don't break past that, this could reject and start dipping back down to 15.26 or even below to fill this gap. So the VIX is at some tough resistance. It's very interesting to me how the SPY is at support trying to bounce and the VIX is at tough resistance, which makes me think that the market will try to rebound. The VIX may start to dip lower as the most likely possibility. Just wanted to give you guys some heads up or insights on that. Once again, for Apple, might try to rebound and help carry the market just a bit. So just keep that in mind. And this could be a little bit more bullish, at least for the time being. For now, we have others like Neo. Neo also has its earnings. We had this Head and Shoulders, the same one I called out, which played out perfectly. We did call that out very, very well. And I think there's a very, very good chance we try to revisit 4.65 or above for a little bit of a bounce. It might try to bounce because of earnings. So just keep that in mind. As long as you don't lose 4.4, I favor a little bit of upside for this. Netflix was pumping and pumping and pumping, approaching the staged match between Tyson and Paul, which is kind of funny. So I just wanted to say that with the way this is moving, this ended up dipping. So it's kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news event. We're going to be watching to see if our 20, our 20 EMA holds. If we hold the 20 EMA, we're looking for a push back up towards this imbalance, taking us back up towards that 830 area. If we lose that, we start dipping back down towards this imbalance down here at 811. I think what's going to happen is we push closer to about 830, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not to make a lower high. So look for a little bit more upside for the 830s, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For Celsius, we're on a bit of a downtrend right now. We'll have to see if we try to reclaim 27. If not, 25 is coming in 24.5, so watch and see how it goes. For others, we have Supermicro. Supermicro has the support around 20.5. We'll see if it holds or not. I think that because of Nvidia's earnings, this might try to push it a little bit higher as long as 20.5 does not break. There's a chance it might attempt to push a little bit more here because of this bullish divergence and the fact that we closed above our or very close to our 20 EMA. We could try to reclaim it. So because of Nvidia's earnings, this might try to push for 24. So just keep that in mind. The chip stocks may do better. Palantir is very bullish right now, guys. As long as you don't lose 64, I think this favors a push for 68 and 70. It looks very, very bullish to me. For Rivian, we are dipping a bit. We're going to see if we can try to base at this level. As long as we try to base at 9.6 flats, there's a good chance we try to rebound for 10.3. So I think there's a good chance for the rebound. SoFi is trying to hold its support near our 20 EMA at 13.39. As long as we hold that, I think there's a good chance we try to push closer to 14. So just keep that in mind. For the IWM Russell 2000, this is dipping a bit. It's going to most likely base between 26.75 and 28 in that range. And once we base down here, we should try to rebound for 230. So look at 226.75 to 228, and we'll see if we bounce. We do have that gap. We also have this previous resistance becoming support, and then the gap support. So you have a double support, also known as a confluence, right over there. So this makes me suspect we dip a little bit more down to this level I have marked here before it tries to bounce as the most likely possibility. If we lose that support, though, we will dump lower, but I don't find that to be as probable. For AMD, we have a bit of a bullish divergence. It might try to push because of Nvidia's earnings, but this is more like speculation. I don't see it bouncing yet, but we'll see if we try to get this reversal here. We gotta hold above 135. If we hold it, I think we go back up closer to 140. If we lose 135, we could be dipping to 132, but I think the odds favor a little bit of a push for 140. For ARM, we're dipping quite a bit. As long as we don't lose 126, I think the odds favor 130. And if that breaks, look for 132. ARM and then AMD, these stocks may try to bounce thanks to Nvidia, so there could be 130 coming soon. Coin is looking a little bit more bullish as long as we don't lose 289. I think the odds are favoring this pushing up closer to about this 318 to 320 area for a little bit more upside. Amazon is looking pretty good. As long as we don't lose 200, I think the odds are favoring a push for 204. And if that breaks, we go up to previous support becoming resistance at 206. For Meta, this is a little bit trickier. I'm hoping it tries to rebound a bit to 560, but the problem is we did see a big holder reduce their stake by about 310,000 shares. So it's a pretty bad piece of news that came out. We'll have to see if we come down to fill this gap. So if we lose 550, we fill the gap to 541. If we hold that, we try to rebound. Hoping it tries to rebound, but it's a little tricky to predict because of this bad news. Might rebound a bit to 560 and eventually reject, but look for an attempt to get back up just temporarily. For Microsoft, I just want to say that we have something very similar developing. Microsoft has dipped quite a bit. We got to try to hold 415. If it holds, we go up to 418 and then eventually 420. So we try to rebound by about 3 points or so if we do hold support. If we lose support, we start dipping back down closer to about the 410 area. I do favor upside a little bit more as the most likely possibility, and we'll see how it reacts. Same thing with Google. Might try to push up for 176, and then we'll see if it gets a rejection. I think 175 to 176 could be coming before it tries to, possibly dip lower. I'm seeing some potential in the chart. We just need a little bit more confirmation just to be safe. DJT has been dipping quite a bit. We'll have to see if we could try to reclaim at 29. If that's reclaimed, we go up to 31.5. If not, we're going to be dipping lower. I think that this will attempt to shuffle around 28, but I'm not sure if it's going to hold above that. It still looks a little bit weaker to me. Like I said before, the VIX is at some tough resistance, which suggests that it might be dipping. And if that dips, it's going to be a sign that the market's going to try to push, which is going to cause that. So it's an interesting confluence as well, a nice correlation. The 10-year is dipping a little bit. It's kind of choppy right now, so give it some time to develop. And last but not least, we have the dollar index. This is making it's starting to act more normal. So this was pushing as the market was dipping. Now it's starting to dip as the market may rebound just a bit. So that makes me think the market may rebound just a little bit before possibly getting a rejection. We'll just have to see about that. With that being said, as long as Tesla holds 319 tomorrow, we could be looking for an attempt to push up for 323, then 330 all over again. If we lose that support, we could be dipping. There is a lot of potential for it to hold depending on the news, and the technicals do look like it wants to hold it. So I do favor upside a bit more for Tesla. We'll see how it goes, but I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning before the market opens to give you guys another update. And with that being said, please enjoy the rest of your guys' weekend. Have a good day, night, or evening. Enjoy some football and do what's best for your guys' lives. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow before market open to update you guys on data and what the charts look like. Until then, take care and peace out.